Was no bang in outer space, but there was a flash.
Hi, I am Cyber Reva, your co-host, the new and improved version of Cyber Gina here on the Doc Speaks show on Intention Radio, coming to you from deep in cyberspace. Now here is your voice of cyber intelligence from deep in cyberspace, your host and mine, Doc.
Thank you, Cyber Reva, for that wonderful introduction. This is the Doc Speaks show on Intention Radio and on YouTube. And I'm the Doc, a voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness, deep in cyberspace. And today on our show, we have Doc Dalton, who is going to be sharing a little bit with us about what's going on in his life presently.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
So you were going to tell us about...
Well, I'm involved in a few different things. I'm involved... I guess we would call it Doc Dalton Media, and I have some books on the horizon. I wrote a book 2 years ago. I got some more coming out now. That's the beauty of it all, and a couple spiritual books, I guess, if you want to call it that way. And I'm in the process now of doing a radio show called Outlaws for Christ. It's actually called Outlaws for Christ Radio, and it's Christian-based, and it's a Christian country music show. So we have country artists, Christian country artists from all over the country who send in their stuff, and we air it, and we play it, and they talk a little bit and things like that.
Oh, that's great. I had a few guys send me some music, but I don't seem to, I just don't seem to be getting any from anywhere. But I was attempting to have some music on my show, but like I said, it had a few guys send me something, and then after that, it kind of petered out.
Right. Well, I did, I did a couple shows before, a couple radio shows before. I did an Outlaws for Christ talk radio for 3.5 years. I did an anti-drug show for kids. That was a cable show, and I did that with the North Jersey Police Department. That was 3.5 years. I did a bluegrass show. That was another 2.5, 3 years. So now I'm getting older, and I know I got more days behind me than I do in front of me. So I'm trying to get in real good with the man upstairs. So
I hear that.
I'm trying my best to walk a straight path.
So how long have you really totally been involved in radio and in what you've been doing?
I would say probably close to 20 years because, and it's funny because I've been doing it and I don't understand a thing about it because I've been lucky enough where I was involved for many years in the studio, and a friend of mine owned the studio, so he would say, we have to do this, and I'd say, okay, and then we did it, where I should have took time to learn everything, and I didn't, so now I'm kind of kicking myself in the backside. But yeah, we did. I was involved with pro wrestling, so we did a pro wrestling talk show. And he was one of the guys that was involved in the anti-drug show and with Saddlebrook Police. And bluegrass, country, whatever you wanted to do, I did it, And now I'm older, I'm hurting, and I just like sitting down a lot. So radio is a great format for sitting down. And besides, I got a face for radio, so you know what I mean. So it helps.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Well, I got, I'm 4 days away from my 67th birthday.
Happy birthday, bro. Happy birthday.
4 days away. And I got the same kind of thoughts in my head, how many days do I really have in front of me,
right,
versus the numbers I have behind me,
right.
And my mom went when she was 68 with diabetes, because of the diabetes, and my father at 72.
Wow.
So I'm saying to myself, well, what do I got? 1 or 5 years?
You're right. Well, I'm lucky. I meet almost every morning with a group of men for breakfast. I'm the youngie out of the group. I'm 62, and it goes up to 92.
Well, God bless them guys.
And they are active. They are active as could be. So
you meet every morning?
Almost every morning. I'd say 5 out of 7 days.
And what time?
Around 9:30, quarter 10, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you guys do with this?
We go to a deli up in North Haledon, New Jersey, and we sit down. We meet every morning.
What do you talk about? Anything in
Two
particular?
of the guys are former minor league ball players,
Okay.
so they actually played with Willie Mays.
Wow.
Yeah, and they talk a lot about that. But it's more important than just to talk. It's almost like a learning experience because these gentlemen are 20, 30 years older than me. So they talk about things that happened in the 40s and the 30s and the 20s even. And you kind of hear it firsthand from people that experienced it. So it's better than actually sitting in a classroom
Yeah.
listening to what they have to say.
Well, and some of the things that you get from them also help you in your life now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Napoleon Hill used to talk about what he called mastermind groups.
Right.
And there's another guy who wrote a book about it also. And in a way, that's what you're doing. You're meeting with people from diverse occupations.
Right.
And you're sitting and you're talking and you're sharing ideas. And often, sometimes, what also might happen, you share something and somebody has a different insight into that.
Right.
And says, wait a minute, why don't you try this? And leads you into it. So those things happen when you're meeting with people from
Yeah.
I meet every Friday morning at the TikTok Diner
Okay, yeah.
at 6:30 a.m. and we've been doing that for like 20 years. We read scripture, we shared some thoughts about scripture, we pray for one another, and we have breakfast.
Very cool. Very cool.
So that type of stuff really works. And the other interesting thing when you're in those groups like that, the Lord said, where two or more are gathered in my name, that's where I'll be. That's where I am.
Right.
So, that's real church.
Right. I agree with you. Church does not have to be the big building with thousands of people in it.
No, it's just a couple of people sharing.
Well, this may sound crazy, but I don't know the Bible that good. And there's a reason why I don't know the Bible that good, because I really don't read that much. Now, I know this sounds crazy that I want to write, but I really don't read that much. And for me to sit down and start reading, I have the attention span of a gnat. So by the time I get to the second paragraph, I forgot the first paragraph. So I tend to watch a lot, listen a lot, and I am 100% believer in God, Jesus, the Holy Ghost. I believe 100%, but during this, I started thinking, and I think way too much. I said to myself, there's countless people out there in the world. They're afraid to go to church. They're afraid to make the step because they feel they're not good enough. They don't know. They hear the fire and the brimstone. You're going to hell if they don't know this. And so I started thinking, there's people out there like me. So wouldn't it be great if they have a place to go to where they can maybe just say a prayer and leave a prayer? So on my website, I have a page that's called Open Air Church of Prayer. And it's amazing. I get prayers from all over the place and we put them up. And then I decided on my own that I wanted to get ordained. Now, I wanted to do that for a personal commitment to God. I had nothing to do with money, doing anything. This was just, so I had a pastor who's a friend of mine says, you believe in prayer. He says, we'll call you the pastor of prayer. And he was joking with me. And he actually bought the domain name for me, pastor of prayer. Another friend of mine who's a pastor says, you have to do it because you could reach a lot of people. Well, I did it. I said, I'm gonna get ordained by the 25th of Christmas. Well, the 23rd I got ordained. And a couple people heard I got ordained, and next thing I know, I'm doing a wedding. I'm performing a wedding at a Mexican restaurant. And they said, how much? And I said, I don't charge. Give me a little food and I'm fine. And they said, you really don't charge? And I said, no, it's just because I never did this for a money thing. The money thing with me and God is totally separate. If you want to make a donation to a church, to a charity, then do it. But for me, it's God. Now I'm booked for 4th of July next year for another wedding.
That's great, but since you don't read, I'm going to share a couple of things with you.
Absolutely.
Number one, well, on a Mac, if you press, it all depends on the on which Mac you have, but Command and another key. After you select all, you cover a page, it
Right.
will read it for you.
Oh, really?
PC, I believe you could buy a software that'll read a book pages for you.
Right.
All right. Then you could also get the Bible, I'm sure, in
Oh,
audio
yeah.
format.
Yeah.
But here's something I want to share with you because you bring up the topic of not being paid. If you read the letters of Paul,
Right.
Paul never took any money for preaching. He was a tent maker.
Right.
He made tents.
Right.
He would go into a town, he would share Christ, and he would make tents
Right.
to sustain himself. That's what he did. Then when he was under house arrest, that was another story.
Yeah.
But he still tried to earn his own way. He never, and he also says in his letters that he had the right to ask for it,
Wow.
but he never does.
Right. Right.
Because he believed that he should take care of his own personal needs and share the word of God.
Right. I used to do the same thing years back. I did anti-drug talks, and I did countless rec in schools, anti-drug talks. I never charged a dime because always in my mind I felt, the drug dealer who was a dirtbag selling the drugs so the kids was making all this money. I didn't even want to be related with money. So I went in and I did it for free. And like the schools would say, well, how much do you want? And I used to say, a cup of coffee and a bologna sandwich. And they looked at me, and that's the truth. One school actually gave me a bologna sandwich. And but I could never do it. I could never do it. And the same thing here. I could just never do it, And so, yeah, I'm a believer 110%. And I know exactly where I stand, exactly how I think and all that stuff. But yeah, I would love to have the job to bring people to the right person and let that person teach them whatever they want.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the salesman.
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But now you said you have a website?
Yes, DocDalton.com.
DocDalton.com?
Yeah, DocDalton.com. And if you go in there, you'll see I have a little business on there that I do. And I have the books. I have a book page up there. I put everything on one site so people don't have to jump around. I have the church on there. And then I have the radio show that I'm doing.
And and that's called?
That's called Outlaws for Christ Radio.
Outlaws for Christ
I
Radio.
was involved with wrestling, and the character's name used to be Doc Dalton, but was America's favorite outlaw. So I just kept the outlaw, and it was Outlaws for Christ, and we used it years ago on other shows, and in fact, if you go to the website, I have two of my old shows up there right now. One with a jazz player, Christian man, very, very good man. Drew Davison is his name. He's on the radio page. If you go to the book page, I have the talk end of the radio show on with, you may know him, his name is Jimmy Houston. He's a Hall of Fame fisherman. And that was like the wildest show I spoke to. He's been on TV for 35 years. And I said, let me try. And I called his daughter, Sherry. She was very, very nice. And within 3 days we did the show, and she says, you have to call my father at 4 o'clock sharp on Wednesday. And I did it, and he was in a parking lot. He was driving through Oklahoma. He's from Oklahoma. And we did the show. And it was a wonderful show. Great man. Oh, great man. A lot of fun. And, that's what I want to do now. I just want to have a little fun, do the right thing and have a little fun.
When I was a kid, back in the 50s, I believe it was Montgomery Clift.
I remember him.
He starred in a movie, and I'll never forget the title of the movie. It was called The Hoodlum Priest.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay.
You could watch that on YouTube, probably.
Yeah, it's probably, but it was called The Hoodlum Priest, and here you are, you're doing Outlaws for Christ.
Outlaws for Christ, yeah, and I like it, and that's what I want to do. I get a lot of people that write to. I'm shocked at the people that get to write to me. My wife and my daughter call me the mayor of lost souls because I can't walk out the door without walking into a wall. I mean, I can't straighten myself out, and I have people calling me. I have people calling me left and right, saying to me, I need your advice on this. Can you help me with this? And then they write me letters, and they go, man, thank you so much. And my wife's going, how come you can help everybody else, but you can't help yourself? And I said, I guess that's God's mission. In fact, before I came here this morning, I was parked down the street from your place, and I was on the phone with a guy who I know whose wife passed away, and I was talking to him, telling him how sorry I was, if you need somebody to talk to, and this, that, and the other thing. Now I'm going to his house Saturday, and he says, oh, come to my house Saturday. So now I go home and I tell my wife, look, Saturday I'm going to be by so-and-so's house. And the mayor of Lost Souls,
Yeah. Well, there's a story, I think they made a movie about it, St. Bernadette. and she had gotten some revelations from the Lord, and she was a nun, and the Mother Superior kind of like resented her.
Right.
Because she's like, why? I'm the Mother Superior. God doesn't talk to me, kind of a deal, right? And yet, and you're a nobody, and he's talking to you. So then one day, I guess she, the Mother Superior again was, agitating and being angry with her, and all she did was she lifted her dress, and that's when she saw that her legs were full of skin cancer, and she was dealing with all this pain quietly.
Right. Wow.
So there's another. So sometimes what happens, and I shared this with a gentleman recently. Satan doesn't have to mess with people who are already bad.
Right. Oh no.
They're doing fine on their own.
It's a free pass.
It's when you start turning to the Lord, and start doing the Lord's work, that he says, now I got to interfere. And that's where you start getting the pains.
Right.
That's when you start getting the illnesses. That's when you start, your car breaks down or whatever the case, situation might be.
Right.
But that's when you're going to run into trouble.
Absolutely. Well, you're talking about the person that wanted to hear God. My wife was friends with a pastor who I truly didn't 100% believe in my heart was for the real. And all she kept saying was, I'm waiting for Big Daddy to send a message. I'm waiting for Big Daddy to send a message. And I looked at my wife and said, well, she wants to hear him so bad, she should shut up for 5 minutes, because your ears can't hear if your mouth keeps talking. And her church went out of business. She had a very small church. Very, very nice. It was a small church. And her rent was $600 a month. And she had 14 or 15 people in the church. And some were relatives. And she said, do you have a way that maybe I could raise money to pay for the rent? I said, easy. Get a newsletter. Get all your people to go out and get just 2 ads for $10 a piece. You have a bi-weekly, you talk about the church. You have a coffee house on Friday night. And you raise enough money to pay for the rent. And she said, no, I can't do that. And then why'd you call me? And the church went out of business. So I mean, it don't matter who you are, what you believe in. We got a little crazy people and everything.
That's right. That's
right.
right.
So our next show will be Crazies for God or something.
But I got it. Let me see if I can find it here. No. Oh yeah, here it is. I got this book when I was 18 years old, and you can see it's held together with duct tape.
Wow.
I want to show the audience. It's held together with duct tape, and it's called The Still Small Voice.
Wow.
So now, and it's, as you can see, there's only like maybe a little paragraph on a page, and it took this gentleman 7 years to write this, and there's only a total of 50 pages. It took
7 years.
7 years to write it. He says that he only wrote when he was inspired by God. And when you read it, it sounds like God's talking to you.
Right.
And one of the things he talks about is to listen, because you bring out you
right.
To listen, you gotta be quiet, because the voice is still and small. Right. It's not going to be thunder, coming down from the sky.
Absolutely.
So, and there's an interesting story that I have with that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a break. And when we come back from the break, we'll pick up from where we left off.
Okay.
And I'm going to share with
Absolutely.
you a little story about that book. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
People tend to live with conflicting thoughts between their mental and emotional consciousness, and as a result, they end up blocking their own successes. In choosing one theme, Dr. Anthony Raimondo directs the reader to find truth and satisfaction in 2 easy steps, available at tapepublishing.com.
Doc is always in search of new original Christian music in all styles and genres to air on the show. He also loves to have guests on the show with exciting personal stories concerning a personal relationship with Christ. For more information, send an email to doc@docspeaksshow.com. If you would like a copy of Doc's book, Choosing One Theme, it is available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can also visit our producer's website, acceleratingevolutionllc.com. Now back to the Doc Speaks Show.
We are back. I am Cyber Reva, your co-host, and this is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio. I hope you like my new look, and here is Doc.
Thank you, Cyber Reva, for bringing us back. And this is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio. And I'm the Doc, a voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness, deep in cyberspace. And before we went up on a break, I mentioned this book called The Still Small Voice, and you can see it's hung together with duct tape. I was 18 years old, and me and a friend, it was like, I don't know, maybe April. The water was still ice cold down on the Jersey Shore, Long Branch, and we go surfing. So after we get done surfing, Steve says to me, hey, there's this new bookstore that just opened up. Let's go check it out. So we're still, in shorts, and we're wet.
Right.
So we go to this bookstore. Now, we go to this bookstore, and if the store was 10 feet by 10 feet, it was big.
Right.
There was maybe 3 dozen books.
Right.
One copy of each thing. And this counter with a hippie, a long-haired
Right.
guy, no more than maybe 2-3 years older than us, sitting at a chair. And this book was the only one that was like staring at me. All the others were this way. This one was like this. So I pick it up, I look at it, I read the first page, and I go, wow, this is some book. But I got no money. So I put it back on the shelf. Now, I think he wanted $1.95 for it back then. He gets up, and it was like, like in a spy movie or something,
Right.
where he gets up and he comes over to me, or maybe like some kind of story and mythology or something.
Okay.
He walks up to me, he grabs the book, and he puts it in my hand, and he goes, "You need this."
Really?
He goes, "You need this." I go, "But I ain't got any money." He goes, "I know, but you need this."
Right.
So as you can see, I've read this thing a number of times. It's always close at hand because it's all about basically learning how to listen. And I often hear, and I'm sure you do too when you're doing your radio shows.
Yeah. I know what you're talking
You're
about.
looking for an idea, and you're looking for an idea. What am I gonna do this week? What am I gonna do? And all of a sudden, a word or a thought just pops into your head, and oh, I know exactly.
We've talked before. We belong to a club together, and we've talked before. And I told the story how I suffered from depression. I was in the hospital, and when I was in the hospital, they had me write poetry. Now, truthfully, I thought the doctor was out of his mind, worse than I was. But I was locked. I couldn't go no place, so I wrote the poetry. And the first poem I wrote was called "That's the Beauty of It All," and it was a spiritual poem. And all my poems were spiritual. I had no idea where they were getting from. Where it was coming from.
Yeah.
So the two things that you mentioned about the guy handing the book and about the thoughts in the head was about a year and a half after being in the hospital a couple times. I got involved in a church, and I decided I wanted to get baptized. And I didn't tell anybody I was getting baptized until about a week before time. I told my wife and my daughter, "You got to come with me to church next Sunday." Why? I said, "I'm getting baptized." "You're getting baptized?" "Yeah, I'm getting baptized." And I'm in this big pool with 3 other people, and I get baptized. And as I'm getting out, this elderly woman walks up to me and grabs my hand and says, "God has plans for you." I was getting ready to go swim to the other side of the pool. She scared the daylights out of me, but she was very, very nice. And the thing about hearing the voice when you read, I know sometimes like when I want to write something, I used to drive myself crazy, and I go, what am I going to write about? Now I sit down at the computer, and I take a deep breath, and I go, okay, when you're ready, I'll go. And son of a gun, man, it comes out. It comes out. I wrote a poem the other day called "Can you tell me something about heaven?" And my wife's going, "I can't believe you're writing that." And then I wrote one, "I think it's time to just sit here and pray." I wrote one about angels in the hood. That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
And
Angels in the hood.
Oh yeah, and I got poetry up on my website too. It's just really, it's enjoyable. It's relaxation. It's therapy. But I try to stay I'm crazy. I joke, I kid, I say a lot of stupid stuff, but I really do try to stay on the right path, you know. I think my humor draws people in, you know, and just try to stay on the right path. Like when you were showing that book, I almost said, looks like the size of my wife's cookbook. Well, we believe in prayer in our house because we pray after we eat, you know. I didn't know chicken cutlets glow in the dark, you know, that type of thing. You know, I saw that from Rodney Dangerfield. But, you know, you got to joke a little bit, you know, and we do that at the club a little bit. We joke, and yeah, it's cool. It's very cool, very cool. But this is a very cool thing you got going here.
You know, well, yeah, we're trying.
Right.
We, you know, I'm retired,
Right.
and you know, I taught for like 20 years. I taught second grade, I taught fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, a little bit in high school. I even taught at the college level.
Right.
And I even tried to open a school.
Did you really?
Yes, I wrote the curriculum for a whole entire high school, junior high school, every single subject. And myself and maybe 3 gentlemen spent $1.5 million renovating a warehouse into a school in Nutley, New Jersey, right? And it was amazing. I mean, it was amazing. You ever see that film, the film with Rodney Dangerfield, Back to School?
Yes. Yes.
And he bumps into the construction worker in the hallway.
Right. I know what you're talking
And he's
about.
going to, because he remodeled the dorm rooms, and he turned the 3 dorm rooms into an apartment.
Right, right.
Well, you had to see what these guys did with a warehouse.
Wow.
It was amazing, because he says, the guy says to me, well, what are your plans? I said, well, my plans are to go up. He said, well, if you got to go up, we got to bring in the steel.
Right.
We got to reinforce the whole building. So they come in through a garage door, and they dig 6 holes, 6 by 6 by 6, right, strategically. Then they came in with 3 huge steel I-beams. They must have been 1.5 feet,
Okay.
right? And they put them over the holes with temporary
Okay.
pillars to hold them up. Then they came in with more steel, and they welded it to the things that were at the ceiling height
Right. Right.
over these empty holes.
Really?
Over the empty holes, right? And then when they got all that done, they filled the holes with concrete, so now the steel had its base.
Wow.
So they did it backwards.
But it worked.
It was amazing. It was amazing. And anyway, we renovated this building, and then the town wouldn't give us a CO to open the school. And it was going to be a charter school, and my plan was to use it as a charter school for 4 to 5 years, and after that we were going to be self-sufficient. I have worked on a concept for 50 years on how to actually pay high school and college students to go to school without a single taxpayer's dollar.
Wow. Where were you when I was going to school?
You know, and it's amazing that I can't get anybody to listen to me.
Well, that I believe. I believe that very much because, you know, there's a lot of people out there that think that they just know everything.
You know, because I had one guy go to me, "Oh, you're going to bribe kids?" Like,
If that's what it took.
but that's not what it's gonna. But that's not what it is. My last class at NJIT, actually the last 4 classes, I had like 25 students, and they were freshmen, and I developed what I thought I was developing a think tank. You know, I was developing a think tank, because my concept of education, I'm not trying to shove stuff into you.
Right.
I want it to come out of you. So my focus is like, God already created you with a mission. He's already got a mission in you. Like, you know, it's in your DNA. It's in your computer chip. However you want to express that thought.
It's true.
That mission is already in you. So I'm not trying to put a mission in. I want to get the mission out. I want you to become aware of your mission. What is it that God has planned for you? What does he want you to do?
Right.
And then if you trust him, he'll open all the doors that need to be opened.
I really believe that. I really believe that very much. I really just, I don't even know how to get there. You're talking about your idea. And one day I wrote down, it was like a challenge from somebody. I wrote down that they said, if you could do business the way you wanted to do business, how would you do it? And I started thinking about it. So I wrote on a piece of paper, and I wrote, well, I would like it to involve only 3 steps. I would like it to be inexpensive. I would like to work 5 hours a week. I would like to do this. I would like to do that. But I don't want to own the business. I'll pay to be part of the business, but it would have to be inexpensive. And I looked at this piece of paper for weeks, and then it was like a voice that said, go find it. And I went, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I searched, and son of a gun, I found it. 17-year-old company, solid. So now that's what I'm doing. And I go to my wife, look at this, babe. Read what I got and read that. We could do this. And my wife goes, oh, no. Like a cement wall. And I go, why would you want to go this way if you can go this way? And I believe it or not, I believe God put me in that direction because I had some plans about a certain percentage going here to this charity and helping these kids and doing this. And I even wanted to go as far as, I know it sounds crazy, working with gangbangers. Because I always said to myself, if you're running a drug organization illegally, you're a great businessman, though.
Oh,
because you got to figure out all this stuff. So why not do it legal?
Well,
I
was teaching 7th grade, and I knew some of the kids were like, because I taught in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I have kids that their parents, and I met them, that were actually members of gangs.
Right.
Okay? And anyway, one day I says, okay, we're, teaching them math, and they're not really, so I says, okay, let me ask you something. How much does a pound of marijuana go for? And now I'm getting all kinds of answers, X amount of dollars. I says, if you divide it up into ounces, how many ounces go? And they got it. They knew how to break down, right?
Right.
A pound into ounces.
Right.
and figure out how much money they could make selling this pound. They knew that.
Right.
Okay? So I says to them, okay, that's illegal. Now, can you do the same thing legally?
You have the system.
So then we started looking at, okay, what kind of product can I have?
Right.
What does it cost me to buy that product? How can I then, distribute that product to make money?
Right. Right.
Same concept. So yes,
I agree.
There are guys out there that are making lots of money illegally that could probably be billionaires on the legitimate world.
We think a lot alike. I'm glad we didn't meet 20 years ago because we'd be doing prison ministries, except we'd be the inmates. I mean, but yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. I believe in simplicity. I really, really do. And even on my website, it says America's Simple Man, Doc Dalton. And I really believe in it. I believe in it wholeheartedly. And I put simple life, simple business, simple faith. Let's don't go overboard and make everybody crazy. We believe. And so that's the way I think. Simplicity is the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did Jesus have?
He had nothing. He had nothing. And that's why when I watch, and it's not that I don't like them. I mean, there's some that I do, but I watch some of these pastors today, these mega churches, and it's crazy. And then a friend of mine who's a pastor at a church says to me, the disciples never went to college to learn anything. They went out.
Well, they were fishermen.
Yeah.
The based on my research and what I've been reading, Paul was the only guy, the early individuals that opened churches, communities. Paul was the only guy who was really studied. He studied under a gentleman, I believe it's pronounced Gamel, who was like the dean, the president of of Harvard University.
Right, right.
This was the guy that you wanted to, be sitting on the floor while he was teaching you in those days.
Right.
This is who Paul studied with.
Right.
So he's the guy who knows how to read and write. He's the guy who knows, the Bible, the Torah backwards and forward, compared to these other guys. Yeah, they learned how to read because they had to do their, to the synagogue,
right,
because it was part of their religion to learn how to read.
Right.
But they weren't scholars.
Right. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I just believe that a lot of times, people, average people who really want to make the turn, who really want to take the step forward, they get intimidated a lot of times by these people who are very knowledgeable, who want to show how knowledgeable they are, and just keep telling these people this, that, and the other thing, and they get intimidated, and they end up not taking that step because they feel they're not good enough.
Yeah, but that's also a form of self-idolatry.
Right, right.
But there's I forget if it's in First Peter's or Second Peter's. It might be in Second Peter's, where Peter writes, he writes pretty much, I'm going to paraphrase, this stuff is hard to understand.
Right. Oh, it is. It is. It is.
He writes that. He goes, this is hard to understand. And then I was reading something, and I just shared this with some people Saturday. In the book of Revelations, and I forget the chapter, it might be chapter 8 or 9, one of the angels has like a little scroll, and John hears this voice, this thunder voice, a voice that's like thunder, and it reveals something, and God tells him, okay, now take that and eat it, and because I want you to forget what you heard. So I come up with this point, and then I looked, and it happens a couple of places where I said to this group, I says, God keeps secrets.
Right.
They go, God keeps secrets. I says, yeah, God keeps secrets. He doesn't have everything in the Bible. He gives you just what you know, what you need.
Right, right.
So, well, why would he do that? I says, this way Satan doesn't know what he's up to.
That's a good idea. That's good thinking.
I says, that's so Satan doesn't know what he's up to.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't teach him everything.
He didn't teach him everything, you know?
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever studied martial arts, but in martial arts, the headmaster never teaches his students
everything,
every move.
Right.
Always keeps one for himself.
That's true. That's good. That's good thinking. That is really good thinking. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Otherwise, Satan would know what's going on all the time.
Yeah. I don't know. I just personally, I just come from a different point of view, and I just believe that, there's people out there that want to have a personal relationship.
Absolutely.
They're the ones that have to be reached, and they're the ones that are probably the most afraid. I mean, you go into a church today, and even if you go into a church that has 300-400 people in it, and the pastor starts preaching like crazy, and you're going to go to hell, and you're going to do this. I mean, when I was in that position, I said to myself, well, I can get to hell on my own. I don't need any help, and you get intimidated, and you walk out, and you go like, I can't sit with these people because, and you don't realize, if you really break it down and think about it, you see yourself, well, how many other people are sitting there that know just as much as I know, but they have a good game. They're playing it real good, like, oh, yeah, and they don't understand a thing,
Well, Christ told the Pharisees and the Sadducees, he says, I didn't come. He says, a doctor doesn't come to heal people that are well.
Right.
He comes to heal those that are sick.
Right. So I tell everybody, talk to him. Talk to him like you talk to me or anybody else. Just talk to him. Just tell him that you want to get. And after you do it 3 or 4 or 5 times, it'll become a little more normal, and you keep talking. You know what? Write a prayer down in your own words. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
He's not going to judge you. He's not going to judge you. In fact, he's going to be thrilled that you're taking the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to go to another break right now, and we'll be back in a little bit. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio, and we'll be right back.
People tend to live with conflicting thoughts between their mental and emotional consciousness, and as a result, they end up blocking their own successes. In choosing one theme, Dr. Anthony Raimondo directs the reader to find truth and satisfaction in 2 easy steps, available at tapepublishing.com.
Doc is always in search of new original Christian music in all styles and genres to air on the show. He also loves to have guests on the show with exciting personal stories concerning a personal relationship with Christ. For more information, send an email to doc@docspeakshow.com. If you would like a copy of Doc's book, Choosing One Theme, it is available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can also visit our producer's website, acceleratingevolutionllc.com. Now back to Doc.
We are back. I am Cyber Reva, your co-host, and this is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio. I hope you like my new look, and here is Doc.
Thank you, Cyber Reva, for bringing us back. And this is the Doc Speak Show on Intention Radio and YouTube. And I'm the Doc, a voice that comes to you from the internet wilderness, deep in cyberspace. And today we've had Doc Dalton with us, and we've been sharing our Christian experiences
Absolutely.
that we've been through our lives, and we're sharing and we're talking, and hopefully maybe some of this will rub off and you'll find that experience for yourself.
If somebody's watching and they're just, they're on the fence about going either way, and it's really not hard. It's really not difficult. I mean, if I could do it, really, I'm being serious now. If I could do it, anybody can do it. and it's just a matter of saying that you want it. It's just a matter of saying to God, to Jesus, to the Holy Ghost, to all three of them, that, hey, I want to make this commitment, I want to make this step, I want to go in this direction. And then start trying to lead a better life, And, I mean, it could come down as simple as a couple prayers here and there, and it could start your journey. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I pray at night, and it's the same prayers over and over and over. And I even say, look, I know I'm boring you, but I have nothing else to offer at this moment. I'm same prayers, same people, same everything. So if you want, I could cut it down and say, listen, when I prayed for last night, we're good for tonight, so we're good to go. And
Yeah, right.
But it's just the way it is. But on an interesting, I'll tell you, when I was sick back in the day with the depression and everything, there was this African American girl named Nikita. And she was young enough to be my daughter, and she caught on that I was sick. And she stayed by my side every day at work for months. And we used to go out and we'd sit on a bench out there and we'd talk. And she said, it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right. And we were together so much that people, honestly, God thought we had something going on. And we didn't, but they thought we did. And I was getting worse. And this one day we're sitting outside, and when she was walking away, she looked at me and she said, I want you to know something. She said, when I pray, a lot of times I fall asleep. I'm in bed and I'm laying down and I fall asleep. But last night I sat up and I asked God to protect you, to watch out for you, to walk with you, to be with you, and went on and on. And that stuck in my mind so much. And one of the poems I wrote was, When God's Angel Becomes Your Friend. And it was dedicated to her. And I get a lot of requests for the poem. But she's one of the people that really got me to shift a tiny bit, not even knowing I was shifting. And that's what I mean. You could just talk to people, and it could be just a few words that make you shift.
That's right.
And then something else may come along, It doesn't have to be the thunder, the lightning, and the bolt from the sky.
I'm getting
to hit
chills just hearing you talk about that, just sharing that story.
And it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And wonderful thing.
Just a word, a smile, a kindness.
Yeah, and I even wrote
can make a big difference.
I haven't seen her in years. She moved to North Carolina, and in the poem it said, and she's seen the poem, but in the poem it said, when our days have come and gone, and when we see each other no longer again, just know I'll always say a prayer for you, because you're God's angel who became my friend. And everybody likes it, but it's a true story. It's a true story,
Yeah. Well, I'm basically at this point, I would say that I'm in constant conversation. See, it's like I'm constantly talking to him.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm probably bending his ear. I'm constantly in fact, In fact, if I misplace something,
Right.
I go, Jesus, you remember where I put that thing?
Well,
and it's gotten to the point where I don't even have to say the prayer anymore.
right.
And the little voice will go, you left the phone over there.
Really, yeah.
And I'm sure it's not Jesus, but an angel, because Scripture does tell us that God has provided angels for us to protect us and guide us.
Right.
So that's probably what's going on.
Right.
But I'm constant communication with the Lord, and one I've written 3 books. They're not published. One is called it was originally written for a screenplay. It's called Least of Brothers, because it's based on Matthew 25:40. What you've done for the least of brothers, you've done for me. And people forget 45 says, what you didn't do for me.
Okay.
So, and when I started, when I was done with that, I had a sort of like a vision in my head, said, I want you to write another one. And I'm going to help you to write it.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you just said.
And I'm going to help you write it. And that's exactly what happened. And I wrote 2 more after that with help. With help. And you mentioned it earlier. You just kind of sit at the typewriter, your computer, and put your fingers there and go, okay.
It gets crazy. It gets crazy. Like, it's like you want to turn around and say, listen, I want to go get a glass of water, and you can hear him go, sit there and shut up and keep writing. I wrote one time, I took a little flack for it, but I didn't care. I loved it. I wrote on a website one time, I was talking about God and Jesus, and I says, it's not easy being God. Listen to people day in and day out with all their crazy prayers, saying all their crazy requests, and we're talking billions of people. I mean, it's got to drive him nuts. And I went, personally, if I was God, every Thursday I'd take a break and I'd go to Colorado, because it's legal to smoke weed there now. And it's not like he's going to go there and come back and everyone's going to go, God, where were you? You're fired. I mean, God needs to rest too. It's difficult being God. A couple people said, how could you write that? And a couple other people said, that was cool. And that's the
because I've had that same thought.
Yeah.
I've had that same thought, like, because I even did it in the movie with what was that character? The Canadian comedian Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, yeah.
Yeah, he did it in the movie where he's, God's getting bombarded every day with
it's crazy.
billions of requests, billions of requests. So yeah, I've had that same kind of thought about,
And I always say, I feel personally, that prayer is the most unselfish act of kindness that you can give to someone. Because it's not like you're asking for anything in return. Like if I'm praying to God for you, I'm saying, God, please take care of Anthony, heal Anthony, walk with Anthony, show him the light, let him be well. He needs your help. And by the way, can you send me $50? You don't do that, so you don't ask for that $50. So it's a true act of kindness.
Right.
Now, nothing in return. You don't ask for anything.
There's a story. 2 guys get shipwrecked on an island. And one guy goes to the north end of the island, the other guy goes to the south end of the island. Now the guy on the north end of the island, he starts praying, right? And he starts going, he says, God, you gotta provide me with food. I got no food here, you gotta provide me with food. Next thing you know, he's finding food. Then he goes a little further, I need shelter. I need shelter. Next thing you know, he's got shelter. Then he starts praying a little more. He wants company, and he ends up with company.
Right.
Finally, he says, I might as well get off this island. And he starts praying for a ship, and the ship comes. So when the ship comes, right, the guy goes, well, where's your friend that was shipwrecked with you? Oh, he's on the other end of the island. Forget him. He's nobody. He don't do anything. And the guy goes, well, that's not what we heard. We heard he's been praying for you all along.
Oh, wow.
Like, in other words, the reason why he got the food, the shelter,
because
he was praying.
I thought you were going to go off track with that. And I go, okay, we're going to get emails. But
no, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
in other words, because he was praying for someone else, not for himself.
That's
he was
perfect.
praying for the same.
Perfect.
And that's kind of that kind of a story. Like, oh yeah, like I got all this because I prayed. No, you got this because he prayed.
Right.
And
that was good.
And we need to pray. But we need to pray for each.
Yeah, we really do.
We really
need
do.
prayer more now than ever before.
Oh,
because we are just so off the wall. We are crazy, and we really do. I believe that with all my heart. We need prayer now, and I don't think we can pray enough. At least at dinner time. But I mean, we could,
We not only need to pray, what's the phrase, unceasingly, but we need millions praying unceasingly right now.
Yeah, we're in bad shape, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's too much insanity going on.
Okay, could I tell one Jesus joke? A little Jesus joke. It's a little off, but we could tell it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus got crucified. He died on the cross. He buried in the tomb. 3 days later, he rose. He walked outside, seen his shadow. We had 6 more weeks of winter. Emails, send them to him. But I told that in church, and they all went crazy and laughed. And keep them laughing.
There's a Italian myth. We often hear the expression, God helps those who help themselves.
Yeah.
Well, Jesus is walking along the road with Peter. And, Peter was always a little slow or stubborn. And he's walking along with Peter. And Peter sees this guy with a wagon, and the wheel's busted, right? And it's busted, and the guy's on his knees, and he's praying. So Peter says to Jesus, he goes, Jesus, look how nice this guy's praying. We got to help him. We got to help him fix that wheel. He goes, no, let him pray. He goes, what? He goes, no, let him pray. And they keep walking. Maybe like a few hours later, they come across another guy with a wagon with the wheel busted. Now he's trying to lift the axle, the wagon up with one arm. He's trying to grab the like another wheel to put onto the axle with the other arm, and he's having difficulty. In the meantime, he's blaspheming.
Yeah.
He's cursing everything from here to whatever, right? So Peter goes, oh my God. He goes, look at how this guy is blaspheming. And Peter says, yeah, but that's the guy we're going to help.
That makes all the sense in the world, right?
Because so that's where, God helps those who help themselves. Because he was trying to do something instead of waiting for somebody to come. Yeah. And yes, it's a joke, but it has sort of a moral a moral to it. And because we don't want to get in trouble here, because lightning bolts might come into the studio.
Right. I'm a little fat, so it has more of an area to hit. But but I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. Just a lot of prayer and just know where you stand inside. That's what counts.
So let's share your website again.
www.docdalton.com. You go on there, you see I have a number of different things on there, from the poetry to the radio to the church and books and all that stuff, and check it out. If you want to leave a prayer, feel free, just email me the prayer. I think I have on there 6 to 8 lines, and we'll put it up. I've been lucky. I got prayers from overseas. I mean, people started writing. It was really, really cool. And remember Joey D and the Starlighters?
Yeah.
He wrote me. I'm friends with him. He wrote me a nice thing. Ted DiBiase from WWE, Vinnie Martell from the Vanilla Fudge, and really it just, plus a ton of other people. It's really,
Do you
really
also
nice.
Is your prayer thing on your website is that like a community too, where other people are, where somebody writes into you a prayer, and that people maybe that are following you join in and pray for that person with that prayer?
They could, and I have that on the website. And I'll tell you, one guy that's been a really big help is a guy named James Marvell, who's a Christian artist. He's down in Tampa, Florida. But James was originally with a group called Mercy back in the late 60s, and they had a #1 hit, and it was called Love Can Make You Happy. And he sends me a ton of stuff, And I got another guy who's a blues artist, and he's a pastor of a church in Kansas City, but he's one of the top blues artists, Jimmy Bratcher. And he's on the road, and he calls me on the road, and my wife's going, and my daughter's going, Dad, all these people you should make a lot of money. And I go, you know what? The reason I'm friends with these people is because they're tired of everybody asking them for something. I don't ask them for anything. They realize that I'm just a true friend.
Yeah, just doing something, and sharing the word and sharing the Lord with them.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Well, This has been the Doc Speaks Show, and we've been interviewing and sharing and talking with Doc Dalton. He's given you his website where you could go and visit and read some of his poetry and what else that's going on with him. And I hope you tune in to his show as well.
Thank you.
Doc, I want to thank you very much for being on the show. It was
Thank you, buddy. I
really
appreciate
great,
it.
really great sharing
I
with you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. And that was a great interview with Doc Dalton. And you can visit his website at www.docdalton.com and enjoy a lot of the wonderful things that he has there. His radio show, Outlaws for Jesus, his poetry, and his prayer situation that you can write in and have Doc praying for you or members of the community praying for you. It's doing a wonderful thing for the community. And we mentioned that the world needs prayers. The world certainly needs prayers. Everyone needs to be praying for the world presently, and that people come to Christ and learn Christ and have peace and love in their hearts. Also, you know, I've mentioned a number of times that if you contact me at Doc at DocSpeakShow.com and request a meditation, a prayer meditation, we'd be more than happy to create one specifically for your needs that you can use and meditate on so that you can grow in with your Christian faith and becoming closer and closer to the Lord on a daily basis, where you really experience the Holy Spirit and feel God's presence. So send us an email if you want us to prepare a meditation for you. Remember, it's at docspeakshow.com, and we will be more than happy to prepare something for you. There was a lot of wonderful information that went through the conversations between the Doc and I, and hopefully that sharing with you will provide some stimulation, some willingness, generate your own experiences that you've had in your life and share with someone else. You know, where two or more are gathered in his name, that's where Christ is present. And he certainly was present today on the show when Doc and I were sharing. It's wonderful to be able to share with someone and share experiences, because it lifts our faith and it gives us strength, provides us with peace and a healing in our own lives, knowing that there's people praying and sharing with us. And this is what we try to do on the Doc Speak Show every week. So we hope that you visit Doc's website, listen to some of Doc's material, as well as listening to mine, and share us with your friends and family so that we can share our message and our experiences with them as well. We hope you tune in again. We're continuing our investigations and sharing different
This has been another enlightening episode at www.intentionradio.com. Stay tuned for more.